Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series on quantum mechanics. In the last video, we began our chapter on important 1D potentials by discussing the infinite square well. In this video, we will continue this discussion by introducing possibly the most important one-dimensional potential, which is the quantum harmonic oscillator, or QHO for short. In particular, this will be part 1 of a 2-part sequence of lectures dedicated to deriving the energy levels and eigenstates of the QHO, where in this video we will focus on the so-called algebraic method using ladder operators, while in the next video we will solve the differential equation directly. The harmonic oscillator is one of the most famous and most important systems in all of physics. If you've ever taken any introductory physics course, you've probably encountered the quintessential example of a simple harmonic oscillator, a mass spring system. Here, the force on the mass is equal to minus kx, where x is the distance from equilibrium and k is the spring constant. This is, of course, Hooke's law. Consequently, we have that the potential energy is quadratic in x. In quantum mechanics, we define the potential equivalently, though here, by convention, I will use m omega squared instead of k based on the classical relationship between the angular frequency and spring constant. Hence, we get the following quantum Hamiltonian. Okay, so what's so special about this potential? Well, suppose we have some analytic potential V, meaning that it admits a Taylor series over a given domain. This potential could be fairly complicated, meaning that it would be effectively impossible to find bound states directly. However, suppose that we are interested in the behavior of the system near a given minimum, located at x equals x naught. Of course, this logic also generalizes to multiple dimensions, but I will just stick with one dimension for now, since all the potentials we're currently working with are in one dimension. We can Taylor expand V about x equals x naught as follows, to quadratic order, to obtain the following approximation. If we assume that V of x naught equals 0, we can cancel the constant term. This simply means that we set the zero energy point to be at x equals x naught. If V is not 0 here, we can just shift our potential accordingly, which just produces the same constant shift in the energy eigenvalues and leaves the eigenstates unchanged. Notice that the linear term drops out because x equals x naught is a critical point, meaning that V prime is 0 here. Consequently, we can locally approximate any analytical potential as a quadratic centered about the critical point. Of course, to get the same form as the harmonic oscillator, we can simply shift the potential by minus x naught such that the minimum occurs at x equals 0, which leaves the energy levels unchanged and shifts the eigenstates by minus x naught relative to those of the original problem. Consequently, the QHO gives us a very nice tool for approximating solutions for tricky but well-behaved potentials. Okay, so as we have clearly established, computing the energy levels and eigenstates is absolutely of interest for this potential, given its powerful applications in approximating evolution under more complicated potentials. However, how do we actually go about doing this? Well, there are two main ways to go about solving the Schrödinger equation for this potential. In particular, we can either use the algebraic approach with special operators known as ladder operators, or we can brute force the computation using series solutions for differential equations. In this video, we will consider the first approach, leaving the latter for the next video. Before we get into the algebraic approach, I just wanted to make a point about how we can actually guess the form of the eigenstates of the QHO immediately. Observing the Hamiltonian, we can see that there is this interesting symmetry where we have a quadratic dependence on both x and p. You may recall from lecture number 3 that the Fourier transform allows us to change between the position and momentum bases, effectively swapping p and x. Consequently, if we change to the momentum basis, we still remain the same quadratic structure of the Hamiltonian. Therefore, you might suspect that the energy eigenstates might have the same structure as the eigenstates of the Fourier transform, since they should effectively stay almost unchanged, aside from maybe a constant factor, under this change of basis. And you would actually be right. In particular, the eigenstates of the Fourier transform are all Hermite polynomials multiplied by Gaussians, and as it turns out, the energy eigenstates we observe will have the exact same form. Anyways, getting back to the matter at hand, the structural symmetry between x and p is quite interesting, because it essentially means that our Hamiltonian has the form of a sum of two quadratic terms. Assume for a second that x and p commute. If this was the case, we could simply factor them as follows, just like you would for numbers or variables, into a product of operators that are the adjoints of each other. However, since x and p do not commute, we cannot do this exactly. In particular, if you expand out the right-hand side, you would see that you need an extra commutator term for the left-hand side and right-hand side to be equal. Substituting in the expression for the commutator of x, p, and factoring out an additional h bar term, we get the following expression, where we've effectively factored part of the Hamiltonian, and we have this additional constant offset term. Note that the operators that we are multiplying against each other are adjoints of each other, as I'd mentioned before. We will denote the combination with plus I as the operator a, and its adjoint, of course, as a dagger. Here are the explicit definitions of these operators. We refer to a as the annihilation operator and a dagger as the creation operator. Collectively, these are known as the ladder operators of the quantum harmonic oscillator. Alternatively, we can also take combinations of these operators to define x and p, which is a useful definition to keep in mind, as we will see later on. Another important property to keep in mind is that the commutator of a and its adjoint is 1, which you can verify independently by expanding out the left-hand side of this expression. Okay, going back to our factored Hamiltonian, we can define this product, a dagger a, as a new operator n, which we will call the number operator. We denote the normalized eigenstates of the number operator as this ket n, where we have the following eigenvalue relationship. Based on our definition of H, we have that the eigenstates of n also form the complete eigenbasis of H, where eigenvalues are instead given by h bar omega times n plus 1/2. So we have this form for the energy levels, but what exactly are the allowed values of n? Well, we can find this as follows. Firstly, we know that big N, our number operator, is Hermitian, meaning that its eigenvalues must all be real. Furthermore, with some clever mathematical manipulation, we can use the non-negativity of the norm to show that the eigenvalues must all be greater than or equal to 0. Recalling the commutation relation between a and a dagger, we can get the following commutation relation between a and n. Therefore, we have that a acting on the n eigenstate produces another eigenstate of n with eigenvalue n minus 1. Furthermore, from the norm relation described earlier, we have that the norm of an must be the square root of n. Consequently, we have that a acting on n effectively gives us the n minus 1th eigenstate multiplied by an additional factor of square root n. We can then chain this over and over, decrementing the eigenstate each time. Therefore, we have that if n is an eigenvalue of big N, then so are n minus 1, n minus 2, and so on and so forth. However, we know that the only allowed eigenvalues are greater than or equal to 0, meaning that the sequence must terminate at some point. This can only happen if the coefficient of the state produced by A ends up being 0. This occurs only when we apply A exactly to the state where n equals 0. Therefore, we have that the only allowed eigenvalues for n are non-negative integers, n equals 0, 1, 2, etc. For the creation operator, we have that the inner product gives us n plus 1 instead of n, meaning that a dagger n effectively raises the value from n to n plus 1 for our given state, and it multiplies it by an additional factor of square root of n plus 1. Here, we do not impose any additional restrictions on n. Altogether, we therefore have that the energy spectrum is given as h bar omega times n plus 1/2 for n equals 0, 1, 2, etc. Consequently, we get quantized energy levels, unlike what we would get for the classical harmonic oscillator, of course, where any energy level is assumed to be allowed. Furthermore, we also have that the lowest allowed energy, 1/2 h bar omega, is greater than 0, meaning that it is impossible to have a state with 0 energy in this potential. As we observed previously, we showed that A lowers the eigenstate by 1 index, while A dagger raises it by 1. This is why we call these A and A dagger operators ladder operators, as we essentially use these to move between adjacent energy eigenstates of n and consequently h. We also sometimes refer to A as the lowering operator and A dagger as the raising operator for this reason as well. Okay, so we found the allowed energies, but what of the energy eigenstates? Well, we can observe that the nth eigenstate can be related to the ground state as follows. Consequently, if we can find the ground state, we can compute the rest of the energy eigenstates. To find the ground state, we note again that A acting on 0 gives us 0, meaning that if we expand A in terms of x and p and solve the resulting differential equation in x, we get the following Gaussian for the ground state, where the constant coefficient is chosen such that the state has norm 1. If we now apply the creation operator to the ground state, we can compute the first excited state in the position basis, which gives us a linear function times the Gaussian. To obtain a more general expression, we can define psi equals square root of m omega over h bar times x, giving us the following definition of a dagger and therefore the nth excited state. Here, hn denotes some nth degree polynomial. To determine this polynomial, we can obtain the following two recurrence relations by considering the action of either a dagger over square root of n plus 1 or a over square root of n on the nth excited state. Eliminating the derivative term gives us the following recurrence relation. This is precisely the recurrence relation for the Hermite polynomials. The Hermite polynomials are a special set of polynomials which form an orthogonal basis for the interval from minus infinity to plus infinity under the L2 product weighted by e to the minus x squared. Altogether, we therefore have that the nth energy eigenstate of the QHO is given by the following expression. This expression is really quite cumbersome to memorize, so I suggest that you instead focus on understanding the general form of the solution as an nth degree polynomial multiplied by a Gaussian, as well as the process through which we arrived at this solution, as that is far more important than blindly memorizing every term in this expression exactly. I want to give a brief exercise in how we can use ladder operators to efficiently compute expectation values for harmonic oscillator problems. In particular, suppose I want you to compute the expected value of the potential energy for the nth QHO eigenstate. Pause the video and try to solve this problem without doing any integration. While it's possible to compute this value with an integral, it would be very unnecessarily cumbersome since we have to evaluate some convoluted integral with Gaussians and Hermite polynomials, and all in all, it's very messy. So, how can we approach this instead? Well, recall that we can rewrite x in terms of a and a dagger as follows. If we now compute the expected value in the energy basis using the relations we defined before for a and a dagger, we get the following expression for the expected value. You might notice something interesting about this value. In particular, it's actually half that of the energy of the eigenstate. Consequently, since h is equal to t plus v, we also have that the expected value of the kinetic energy is equal to this expression as well. You can also verify this independently by using the same technique for expanding out p squared as we used for x squared. This same relation also holds for the classical harmonic oscillator as well, as it turns out. This relation is actually a special case of a result known as the virial theorem, which more generally states that for potentials of the form v of x equals alpha x to the k, the expectation value of both energies is related as follows. Note that this theorem actually holds for both classical and quantum mechanics. Altogether, the algebraic approach gives us a very nice method of finding the energy levels and eigenstates of the QHO. In the next video, we will continue our discussion on the QHO by showing an alternative derivation using traditional differential equations techniques. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.